What's up, y'all? I want you to join the Raiders Report family here. Hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications because I left work yesterday and I needed to vent. And I hope that people, when they come across this show, they know that we're going to give you that platform to vent down in the comment section on all of our live shows. You believe it, I believe it. Raider Nation deserves better. And if you really feel that in your bones, seriously, hit that sub button. I promise you, I'm here for you, and I know you guys are there for me too. Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. Mitchell Renz here from Chat Sports, and I probably should have opened this show up calling it the Circus Report because that's what the Raiders have been since Josh McDaniels has taken over for this team. What you're going to see are my three biggest overreactions that I've seen out there on social media after a 25-20 loss to the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday. I know there's a lot of emotion. I know there was a lot of crazy stuff in that post-game show. Here's what we're going to talk about. Derek Carr, Josh McDaniels, and then some of the stuff that players said after the game yesterday. The first one is this. The players want McDaniels to get fired. Did anybody specifically say that we want McDaniels to be fired? No. But look at quarterback Derek Carr. Look at the frustrated faces on Davante Adams. The players walking off the field. You think those players like being booed off the field at Allegiant Stadium, a stadium that already was pretty empty? It's for just win babies. I don't know what player's going to have the cojones to step up and say, listen, this is a head coaching problem. This is a Josh McDaniels problem. I am not afraid to poke fun at Derek. Not afraid to do it. Derek was literally holding back tears yesterday. I felt bad for DC. Yeah, he might not have all the tools to be a successful quarterback. He might not be able to work well in Josh McDaniels' system. But you know what? You got to be able to care for this guy because you can say what you want about him. He cares about this team a lot. He cares about what a Raider is because it's you carry that with pride. Putting that helmet on, wearing that shield, having Raiders on your chest, that takes a lot of pride. And seeing a grown man who you have to respect cry on front of a camera in front of people, it's got to break your heart. That man wants Josh McDaniels fired. You cannot convince me otherwise. Now, this is what Derek had to say after the Colts game. I love the silver and black, and I'm going to give it everything I can every time I go out there. And I can't speak for everybody, for every man, what's going on in their head, but I can tell you what's going on in my head, and I'm going to give it all that I can every single time. I'm just pissed off about some things, that a lot of us try to do just to practice, what we put our bodies through just to sleep at night. He doesn't say anything there, but in terms of what it just takes to go through practice, what they put their bodies through, I think he's literally alluding to, you don't know how much bullshit we deal with at practice with our coaches. Now, here's the second part or third part of what Carr had to say. And for that to be the result of all the effort pisses me off. Pisses a lot of guys off. It's hard knowing what some guys are doing just to practice, what they're putting in their body just to sleep at night, just so we can be there for each other. And I wish everybody in that room felt the same way about this place. And as a leader, that pisses me off, if I'm being honest. So let me read that last part again. And I wish everybody in that room felt the same way about this place. And as a leader, that pisses me off, if I'm being honest. Derek is flat out telling you, not every player in that locker room is on board with McDaniels. They're not going to come out and say that there's a division in the locker room. But DC just said it right there. There is a division in this team. Why? You got the old players who did it last season with John Gruden, Rich Bisaccia, and then you got a bunch of all these other new players with McDaniels. Maybe they're following McDaniels. Maybe they're sucking up to him because they want to try to keep their jobs. But your leader, your quarterback, the guy that you paid $121.5 million to, literally cried in front of the NFL media, the Raiders media yesterday. That's a cry for help. Fire the clown, that's McDaniels. So you guys tell me, should the Raiders do it? Keep or fire him? Y'all know where I stand. At this point, I think yesterday I put out 20 or 30 posts, something that just said fire McDaniels. I can't stand this guy anymore. Yeah, I've never met him in person. But when you think about what he did to the Broncos, when you think about what he did to the Indianapolis Colts, having families move to Indy and then bailing out on them, that tells you everything you need to know about this man right here. And now what he's doing to this Las Vegas Raiders team. I'm also a believer that good teams find a way to win. And bad coach teams find a way to lose. In NFL history, here are the most one-score losses without a win. The 2022 Raiders are 0-6 this season. Sorry, Bengals fans out there. The Bengals in 2017, 0-6. 2019 Bengals, 0-8. And then the 2001 Panthers were 0-9. I hope the Raiders don't get to this point, but you got to consider the fact that there's going to be a chance that it happens. And the other frustrating part is when you look at last season and all the bullshit that went on, the John Gruden emails, the Henry Ruggs situation, they also had players get hurt. But you know what? The Raiders went 7-2 in one-score games last season. You won 4 straight games to finish 10-7 and make the playoffs. And that was underneath interim head coach Rich Bisaccia. What's really aggravating is you had Jeff Saturday. The last time Jeff Saturday coached, he lost to a high school team. And now he's 1-0 against the Raiders. You lost to somebody who wasn't even a head coach in the NFL a week ago. And then you consider the fact of all the moves that you made in the offseason, which by all accounts, most Raider fans would agree, this team is more talented on paper than that team. It just comes down to just piss-poor coaching offensively, defensively, and nobody's a leader in that coaching staff. Patrick Graham just sits there with his thumb up his butt on the sideline. He's got a frowny face. You got Josh McDaniels who just sits there and looks at his clipboard like there's going to be, I don't know, some magical treasure map on that board to get him a win. No, the problem is this. If the Raiders were smart, they would have just told him, get the hell out of here and fired him. Now, I'll tell you this right now. Today's show is presented by LinkedIn Talent Solutions, and I wanted them to be today's sponsor because sometimes you hire the wrong guy, and that's going to happen. LinkedIn Talent Solutions, though, is going to help you if you're running a small business. Hire the right people. It's going to get the right candidates in front of you faster and easier. So if you are starting a business like Chat Sports, we are a business here. I found Chat Sports through LinkedIn. Go to linkedin.com/NFL Daily. You can post your jobs and find qualified people fast. Simple tools like screening questions. It's going to make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. Mark Davis, I don't know what system you're using, but maybe you need to use LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/NFL Daily. That's linkedin.com/NFL Daily to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Am I frustrated? Yes. Are you guys frustrated? Yes. Everybody deserves to be frustrated because of what this team has put on the field. Even Davante Adams. And when I see guys like Max Crosby leave the game yesterday, first thing he does when he gets to the locker room, tweets out, apologize to the Raiders. You got Derek Carr crying, Max Crosby tweeting, Davante Adams expressing his frustrations. Those are the 3 leaders on your team, and they are clearly crying for help. Davante Adams after the Colts game. Ain't no magic message. We're going to keep what was said in-house. Wasn't nothing crazy, just we had a conversation as a team. I don't think we're like, F what he's talking about, or I'm going against the grain. It's just a matter of executing when it's time. So Davante talks about players buying into McDaniels. And he doesn't say that, no, people are doing it, and he doesn't say this. But just watch the interview. Listen to the words, the amount of frustration. You could tell that they want to say something. The unfortunate part is, though, none of the players, I don't think, will step up. Here's the next part here. Are the Raiders tanking? For a long time, I've been asked this question. I don't think that the Raiders players are tanking, but I'm going to honestly look at all of you in the eyes right now and say, I believe that the front office and Josh McDaniels is purposely trying to tank right now to impact this Raiders team. It's for just win babies. And before the team even went out onto the field, you knew it. You didn't have Denzel Perryman, who is your top run stopper by all accounts. Denzel Perryman is your top run stopper. A few weeks ago, you traded away Jonathan Hankins, who at the time was probably your best run stopper at defensive tackle. So you're telling me in a game where you're going up against Jonathan Taylor, a top 5 running back in the NFL, you're going to bench both of your rookie defensive tackles and Cleveland Ferrell, who also plays a little bit of DT. So you're telling me that not playing Neil Farrell Jr., Matthew Butler, and Cleveland Ferrell is going to help out your defensive line against Taylor. No, you decided to go with Bilal Nichols, who was your guy. You decided to use a Kyle Pecco, who you just signed off the practice squad. Why? He's your guy. Has Andrew Billings played well? Yes. But that Raiders defensive line doesn't have a lot of depth. and you have continually ignored people that said your biggest weakness right now on defense is the lack of ability to get after the quarterback. The Raiders have 10 sacks this season. 7 belong to Max Crosby. Nate Hobbs is tied with 1, and he is also tied as the second guy with the most sacks. You purposely put your defensive team in a position to struggle. You had linebackers like Luke Masterson, Darian Butler, Curtis Bolton, Jayon Brown, who was a healthy scratch. Those were your top linebackers, and you still decided to bench those 3 defensive linemen. That's just downright disgraceful to me. So if you think that the Raiders are tanking, I want you to just spam tank right now. It pisses me off, and I don't think that the players are doing it. I don't. Do I think that some of the players are split on whether or not they want to listen to McDaniels? Because I'm sure that they listen to him talk, and they just want to punch him right in the face. Hell, I said it yesterday. I would love to put me in a cage with McDaniels. Even if I lose, I just need a few swings at him, and I'm not even that type of person. So type tank if you think the Raiders are tanking. Coming up next here, and I asked this question yesterday during the game. Is it time to bench Derek Carr? I'm going to give you my answer on that. And I know there was a lot of people saying it's time to bench DC. Just let's pump the brakes on that for one quick sec. Now, I do want to give major shout-outs to today's live show. Our Raiders Report live game days, man, they make my week. I love hanging out with y'all. I love watching these games. I definitely wish that they resulted in more Raiders wins. But I got a few game balls that I need to give out. Steven Montanez, Hootie Lord, Alexander Galvin, Raiders _75. Thank you guys so much for making yesterday's show fun. Shout out to Mark, Raider 500, Wayne Hauser, Jason Klein. Y'all are on that Boot Hall of Fame. I appreciate you. As always, big time shout out to Fat Girth Dad. Reyes Maldonado went for the MVP with a $400 super chat. Ronnie Marshall, Raiders Rackham, thank you for your service, my dude. But I did want to give a major shout out to yesterday's MVP. And going forward, after our watch parties, we're going to start doing more game balls. We're going to start giving out the MVP awards. And it actually is going to go to 2 people. So shout out to Trivan, who I talked to on the phone last night for about 30, 45 minutes. We kind of just vented out a little bit, talked about some of our frustrations, and Trivan sent in the biggest super chat yesterday. But he wanted to dedicate it to Hellcat Q, and he wanted to say, Hellcat, on behalf of me, on behalf of Trivan, Jeremy, Raider Nation, Chat Sports, America, we want to say thank you so much for your service, and that's why Trivan wanted to dedicate to that. So what we did is I said, hey, Hellcat, send me some pictures, so I'm going to move over here a little bit. Here's Hellcat Q in battle. I mean, really, really cool picture there. Here's Hellcat in bed because he was injured. He's sitting down with George W. Bush. That's pretty wild to me. And then this is probably my favorite picture of him, his 2 daughters, his wife. Hellcat, from bottom of my heart, from Raider Nation, man, thank you so much. You're the MVP this week. We're going to show you a major, major love the entire week. And if you want to be the MVP of next week's show, join us during our live watch parties. So if you guys could show Hellcat Q, Trivan a little bit of love. Hellcat, I salute you, good sir. Trivan, one of the GOATs, and in fact, I think you deserve to be in my Mount Rushmore of Raiders Report with David Zahn, Wild 114, and Raider Ron. Let's go to the final story here on the Raiders Report. Is it time to bench Derek Carr? No. Tuck rule, tuck that. If the front office is really trying to tank, then yes, you bench Derek Carr. If you're trying to give your fan base a little bit of hope, you got to roll with DC. DC's better than Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham's not good at football. Has Derek struggled in McDaniels' system? Yeah, there's no doubt about it. 2,128 yards, 13 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. The offensive line wasn't bad yesterday. They had a PFF grade of over 75. Does DC need to be better at being able to step up into a pocket, roll out of a pocket? Yes. I can make a legitimate argument that Derek Carr right now has arguably the worst pocket presence in the National Football League and definitely gets happy feet. He's on pace right now for 4,020 yards, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. The stats aren't great. He's taken multiple steps back. Yes, he doesn't have Hunter Renfrow. He doesn't have Darren Waller. But the excuses were done this year. Why? Because you added number 17, Devontae Adams. And there are multiple times you watch that game yesterday. You go back, you look at the film. He misses a lot of open players. With all that being said, though, Jarrett Stidham doesn't make you a better football team. I don't think it does. Jarrett Stidham's not a leader. I'm not saying Derek's done a great job of leading these guys on the field, but there's no way I can confidently look at you in the eyes right now. Stidham from a career standpoint, 52.5% completion percentage, 342 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Guess what? That's all with McDaniels as his offensive play caller. But what about this preseason? Jarrett Stidham in the preseason, 29 of 46, 316 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. But he did use his legs, right? 5 carries, 28 yards, average 5.6 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. I talked to players in the offseason that told me that Nick Mullins was a better quarterback than Jarrett Stidham. But the only reason why Stidham's going to stick around was because he knew the McDaniels system or he was able to run it. I can't sit up here and tell y'all to bench DC for this guy. Can't do it. But you guys let me know. Who should start Week 11 up against the Denver Donkeys? Type 4 for Derek Carr or Type 3 for Stidham. We're going to get a lot of split answers here. That's totally fine. As far as I'm concerned, I need to let Derek finish off this season. And then that way you have the total answer of whether or not you can bring him back next season on a cheaper deal, or if you do have that decision where you keep him or not. Because it's a lot of money, $110.68 million. That alone is worth Derek finishing off the season. That way you know what can happen going into the future here for the Raiders. Now, before I leave y'all, always remember, it's Twitter, it's Instagram. I tweet a lot during the games. I'm going to be tweeting a lot this entire week. I already told you, every time the Raiders post on Twitter and on Instagram, I will reply to it with Fire Josh McDaniels. I hope y'all do the same. I did some rants last night on Instagram Live. I needed to vent, and I'm going to be live a little bit later today on Local. So please, hit me up over there, RaidersReport.locals.com. It's been a frustrating season. I just want y'all to know that Jeremy and I are going to keep on pumping out content. We are here for you, and if you ever need a place to just sit down, vent, have a drink, probably more than one, join us here on the Raiders Report.